which I won't have to go into too much trouble with. We have no one in the public audience. Second item on the agenda is public forum. We have no speakers in public forum because of that fact, but I've been made aware there's a letter that the Boorowa Tennis Club, I believe, would like to have read to councillors. So the Director of Infrastructure would like to take care of that, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Letter from Boorowa Tennis Club Incorporated. Paul Corcoran is the President. Dear Hilltops councillors, firstly, the Boorowa Tennis Club would like to thank Hilltops Council for its support in the development of the Boorowa Tennis Complex at the Boorowa Showgrounds. We have worked with Hilltops Council during this tender process and have been pleased with the advice and direction taken on this project. This project has been a drawn-out process, and the Tennis Club has met with Hilltops Council on numerous occasions to plan, discuss and move forward on getting the courts built. The Hilltops Council has been well informed of the needs and expectations in discussions and consultations on the development of new courts. The Council has sought and tendered for construction of these courts, and the Boorowa Tennis Club has been well informed of the process and understand the need for solid engineering for the construction of these courts, particularly for the base of these courts, as this is crucial for the success of the project. The Tennis Club would like to advise on the preferable options for the courts. Our option would be for the concrete base with a rubberised acrylic playing surface. I wrote that letter to Council in October 2018. Finally, Boorowa Tennis Club has been working hard since 2015 to acquire new community tennis courts by lobbying Council, the local members to acquire funds to complete this project. Council has been well informed of the needs of the club and the community on why we need these new facilities. While this has been a very drawn-out process, Boorowa Tennis Club looks forward to working with Council in completing the project and the benefits it will bring to our club and the whole Hilltops region. Signed, Paul Corcoran, President.
Thank you, Director, for that. Now I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on today, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. The next item is the live streaming. Council meeting is being streamed live, recorded and published in accordance with Council's live streaming in Council meetings policy. To those present in the gallery, which are none, so that doesn't count, anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. The Chair and or the General Manager have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their action results in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour and or comments. Item 4. Apologies and applications for leave of absence by councillors. Councillors, we have a application from Councillor O'Connor for leave of absence. That's listed on the paper there, and we also have received an apology from Councillor Stadmiller. Could I have moved Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Rolls, thank you. All those in favour? So good, thank you. Could I have councillors and staff be upstanding for the expressions of sympathy, please? We pause for a moment's silence for the following: Athol Hazel, Warren Keith, Peter Bennett, Olive Nelson, Kevin Anderson, Murray Waugh. Thank you, councillors. Just before I move on to the next item, I'm aware that all councillors have now had a chance to catch up and have a chat with Anthony O'Reilly, our new General Manager of Hilltops Council, and I'd like to officially welcome Anthony to that chair, and look forward to working alongside Anthony, as all councillors will, to achieve some of them aims and goals that we set out to achieve in September 2017. So, welcome, Anthony. Item 6 is the confirmation of the minutes of the last ordinary meeting on the 26th of February.
Move one small typo.
Moved Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Manchester. With a correction,
What?
Councillor?
Page 9, councillors' names. Councillor Wallace's slight spelling mistake there. And Anthony.
Now there we go. Good pick-up. Thank you for that. Okay, I've got a mover and a seconder for the confirmation of those minutes. All those in favour? Again, so be it. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I would abstain. I wasn't actually here, so I can't endorse the minutes. If we could just...
Sorry, Councillor?
I said I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I can't endorse the minutes.
Understand that?
So can my name be removed from and put as abstained, or however you'd like to do it?
Yep. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, sorry, just to go back. My name is spelled that way.
I wasn't going to mention it, but yeah. Okay. So we're organised
Mr.
there
Mayor,
on...
just clarification. If Councillor Tuckman fails to vote, that's a vote against my understanding of the code of conduct, code of meeting practice. Sorry.
My understanding that would be the case, Councillor. If you decline to vote on a matter, that's taken that you voted against the matter that was put.
So, point of clarification, can I actually vote on the matter if I wasn't here?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe she can. You just can't move the... if you weren't at the meeting, you can't move the minutes, but you can still vote on it.
Yeah, correct.
Oh,
Thank you. Now, this could be a long night. I had a move and a second, and we've all voted. So we'll move on to the next item. Thank you. Which takes me to disclosures of interest around the table on any matter that's on our agenda tonight. No disclosures of interest. I'll move on. No mayoral minute. Mayoral reports there with a few alterations due to some factors down towards the bottom, the cancellations of High School Community Day, and I was unable to make the planning workshop. I think they're the only two that I had to pull out and mention. It's got there that I attended, but because of one reason or another, I did not. Yeah, corrected there. So I'll move that if someone would like to second that we accept the Mayor's report. Seconded, Councillor Horton, thank you. All those in favour? Move on to the Councillors' reports, and I'll go around the table, as we normally would, and start. Councillor Walker. Councillor Horton's. Councillor Wallace. Thank you. You're at the end of the table.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Workshop attended on the 4th of March and a meeting with the General Manager. Other than that, I've been largely self-isolating.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rolls.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I attended a hub meeting and Mercy Care. Had a great day at the Burrawa Show and also at the Burrawa International Women's Day on Sunday, which was well attended and a lovely day to be part of. At Burrawa again for the opening of the arena, the LSPS workshop, and also a meeting with the GM, and I'm here this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
3rd of the 3rd Economic Development Meeting, 4th of the 3rd Councillor Workshop, 12th of the 3rd ARIC Meeting, 17th of the 3rd the Burrawa Horse Event Area Funding Announcement. Same day, 17th of the 3rd the LSPS Councillor Workshop, 23rd of the 3rd meeting with the General Manager, and today's meeting, 25th.
Thank you. Councillor Horton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I need to ask Deidre if she would delete Jugiong Golf Club reopening and the Murrumbara Precinct meeting. Both of those did not go ahead. I attended 13 other meetings and they're in the business paper for all to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horton. Councillor Walker.
Meeting is minuted.
Thank you. Councillor Flannery.
Meetings is minuted, as well as I've just lost it now. The LSPS meeting and the workshop on the 4th of March, and a meeting with the GM on the 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manchester.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Meetings as minuted. Murrumbara Precinct meeting on the 24th of the 2nd. Gaylong Mine Liaison meeting on the 2nd of the 3rd. The Gaylong VPA meeting on the 9th of the 3rd. Traffic Committee on the 11th of the 3rd. And Bill the Bastard meeting with the General Manager and 2 directors on the 20th of the 3rd. And also a meeting, an up-to-date meeting with the General... Sorry?
Something about a bastard from the
Bill-
general manager.
No, meeting about Bill Bron the Bastard, meeting with the General Manager and 2 directors, and then a welcome meeting with the General Manager on the 19th of the 3rd.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. Councillor Tuckman.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. International Women's Day event at Boorowa, planning workshop, meeting with the GM in today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone like to move? We accept those reports, please. Move Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor Manchester. All those in favour? So be it. Anyone have anyone for the Community Recognition Scheme today? No? Okay, move on to item 12. Here's his chance, the General Manager's report. Item 2053, WH&S measures for the use of glyphosate by council staff. Moved
Seconded.
by Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Questions?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to speak against the recommendation.
Okay, I'll wait there then. Okay.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to propose an alternative motion, so
You're foreshadowing a motion?
yes.
Okay. Could tell us what that would be?
That the ban on glyphosate in use by Hilltops Council be removed.
So I'm just waiting to make sure Deirdre's right. Okay, there it is in front of me. Back to Lynch Chambers. Okay, so item move and a seconder for the recommendation that was there. It was moved by Councillor Walker, seconded Councillor Armstrong. Would you like to speak to Councillor Walker?
Yes, I will briefly. I think it's very well covered in the report. It doesn't say any do's or don'ts within that report. What it tells me, the way I read it, is that we work within guidelines, and I receive a note that it doesn't say you can't use it, can use it, or it tells it that there's a product there that we need to work in within certain guidelines. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Horton indicated he would like to speak against the receiving and noting of the report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Since our last ordinary meeting, I've done some research on the glyphosate usage worldwide, and when you study that and read what's happened around the world, nobody in their right mind would want to use this disease-causing liquid.
Point.
Mr Mayor, Argentina banned it in 2015, Austria banned it in 2019, Bahrain banned it in 2017.
Councillors, please, can we have some respect? I'm just about to make a statement myself.
Yeah, the farmers would be interested in it for sure. We're all pushing our own barriers. Bahrain banned it in 2017, Belgium in 2017, Canada, 8 out of 10 provinces, including Vancouver, banned.
Councillor Horton, just before you go too much further with it, you're speaking against the use of glyphosate. The actual recommendation is to receive and note the report. You're not actually speaking against receiving the report. You're talking about not using glyphosate. So you're not really speaking against what is actually in front of you.
Well, I want to put another amended motion in too, and this is to support it.
If you want to foreshadow a motion, please foreshadow your motion.
Right, I'd like to foreshadow the motion.
What's that motion,
And the
Councillor?
motion is the Hilltops ban all usage of glyphosate from Thursday, the 26th of March 2020.
Point. Right.
Mr Mayor,
Councillor Horton, could you turn your microphone off, please, for a moment?
When do I get a chance to
You'll
finish?
get your opportunity to speak to your foreshadow motion if it becomes relevant.
this
Councillor Armstrong.
at the last council meeting when this matter was raised, I did insist that, in my view, this is a day-to-day management issue. The actual use of materials, the procurement of materials, and the responsibility to staff as a result of work health and safety legislation is entirely within the realm of the General Manager. And I just can't see how a council can be involved in the day-to-day management of the organisation vis-a-vis use of materials and potential procurement of materials. This would appear to me to be entirely out of order and inconsistent with the provisions of the Local Government Act.
I'd like to get the General Manager to respond to you, Councillor. Thank you, General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Armstrong is correct in his view that it is under my delegation to indicate what product is used and not used. This particular report responds to a question in relation to the protective measures. We talk about those protective measures. We do not say we will use it or we will not use it. We say this is the guidelines of which we use it. So I look to my Director of Strategy and Organisational Performance for the guidelines on which I make this direction. I also take on advice from the Director of Infrastructure in relation to the any utilisation of the product. It is not banned, but it is only to be used in the circumstances where we can adhere to our work health and safety guidelines. So there is no absolute to use it, there is no absolute not to use it. We are just responding to the question as in these are the work health and safety measures of which we apply, and I'm guided by the day-to-day operational needs of my fellow directors in relation to how or if we use the product, which is correct as in it's an operational issue.
Thank you for that clarification. On that note, Councillor Manchester.
Yeah, just a comment. I totally agree with the comments from Councillor Armstrong. This is an issue of the General Manager's delegation, but I'd just like to make a comment on the use of glyphosate. Glyphosate is no different to any other chemical that we use, and hopefully the directions to the staff is that they use the appropriate PPE gear, which is the same gear. It doesn't matter whether you use glyphosate or BASH or any of the other chemicals, it is all the same. And hopefully that the PPE gear is given to the staff for their use and instruction. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. Look, given on what's been said and what's been directed by the General Manager, and this report is to receive and note, and I've had a mover and a seconder, unless someone wants to actually, and I've had a speaker for the recommendation, unless someone wants to speak actually against receiving and noting this report, if someone wants to do that, I'm happy for that to happen.
I'll speak against it, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Flannery.
Mr. Mayor, I speak against it because we have been advised in previous correspondence that there is a ban by the Hilltops Council on the use of glyphosate, or they have imposed a ban on themselves from using it. And there is, on that basis, I would like to know why, well, this report doesn't state that they are willing to use it. It goes through the basis upon which any chemical may be used. I note that the last dot point is PPE is to be provided, or it just says people with protective equipment. Dot point number 1 should be that glyphosate and any other chemical is to be used only as directed. So everyone who uses any chemicals that's an employee of Hilltop Shire or any other shire should be using chemicals after they have followed the labels. And the labels clearly state
that PPE equipment is to be used. Glyphosate is not banned in Australia. It's been thoroughly researched. Councillor Horton at the last council meeting stated that it was banned in the US, and I have a document here that goes through as recently as the 19th of February this year, where the EPA, the US EPA, have reanalysed the product. The basis of court cases were where glyphosate was found to possibly be carcinogenic was based on laboratory animals, not on the results of humans, but based on laboratory animals. The US study is far more conclusive than other studies. It hasn't been banned in America. It's not banned in Australia. And on that basis, I don't believe Hilltops Council can unilaterally ban a product that scientists still say is safe to use with PPE chemicals, with PPE equipment.
Thank you, Councillor.
The report does not state this.
Thank you, Councillor.
Mr Mayor, could I respond to that?
No, not at the moment. Councillor Horton. I'd a speaker for and a speaker against receiving and noting this report. Would anyone else like to speak for receiving this report?
Mr Mayor, I will.
Councillor Armstrong, the seconder.
As I said before, in my view, this is an operational matter. The report itself goes into to mention both the mechanical means of providing safe use and the administrative means. It is an offence to use any chemical contrary to the label, and I think that once again, we are council by council involving itself at that level, we are moving into an operational sphere, and that's something that we should be staying out of. So, for that reason, I'll be supporting the motion, the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. So, there's one opportunity for anyone else who'd like to speak against, receive and noting this report. Not in regard to using or not using the product, it's about the report.
Mr Mayor, I want to speak why this report shouldn't be approved, because it doesn't have any mention there in the recommendation that it be banned.
That's exactly right. It doesn't have any in the recommendation about it being used. It is a matter of operational.
Yep.
This is a report to receive and note.
Yep.
On that point, I'm going to put that item. The council receive and note the report. All those in favour?
Aye.
John Dedry? Against? Councillor Flannery, Councillor Manchester and Councillor Wallace. That is carried. Thank you, councillors.
Mr Mayor,
I'd just like...
can I just ask a question?
Yep.
What is the intention of
I'll just...
council in regards to the use of...
We probably won't go there at this time, council. We've gone on with that item. I was going to mention that would be a matter of operational for staff to decide on that matter. Either that or bring... I don't know how you could bring anything back to council in regard to that if it is a matter of operational.
Well,
so
maybe
we'll move on from there.
Maybe a report in regards to information and the impacts it might have on the wider agricultural community. Should we not use it?
Thank you. Item 2054 is the cash and investment report.
Move the report.
Moved Councillor Walker. Seconded Councillor Manchester. Thank you. So no, any questions in regard to that report? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Aye. Again, unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 2055, outstanding rates and charges collection report. Reports there in front of you, and again, it's to receive and note the report, councillors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rolls, seconded.
I second it with a question.
Councillor Horton with a question. Councillor Horton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The outstanding rates, both land and water, is very concerning to me. And since Director John Hughes has been in control, it's been pulled back a lot, doing a good job there. But total outstanding is $3.3 million. as of the 29th of February. And more concerning to me is the 1.725 million that's been outstanding for more than 90 days. Now, we're going into tough times, and that 90 days money needs to be collected very quick. I think probably a lot of it is senior citizens. The government announced that there'll be $750 available to senior citizens next month, April, and also again in July, I think it was. So I would suggest that rather than just send letters, that we become more active in collecting that money, because over 90 days, could be over 120 days, who knows. $1.725 million. And I'd just like to ask Director John Hughes, apart from, I noted that you've mentioned that letters are being sent out, are we doing anything more active, like knocking on doors or getting debt collectors or phoning these people to try and get the money? It's a good time to do it now, as I said, with this $750 coming through. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor. The 1.725 million in miscellaneous debtors you're referring to isn't rates and charges debtors. I'm pleased to say that's miscellaneous debtors and charges, which includes works-related debtors and intergovernmental debtors and other categories of council revenue other than rates and charges. So that's from a different category of debtors and not from rates and charges. So it's wraps up a variety of debts of council's revenue categories. It includes outstanding grant receipts and all sorts of things. So it's not mums and dads and pensioners and those kind of areas where there's rate relief involved, and we are, however, making strenuous collection efforts in that area, and we've reined that back in, as the figures show in this report, reined that back in substantially. We are already noticing, however, with the downturn in the economy due to coronavirus, some stress on the commercial sector in our area as a result of business, particularly in the hospitality and restaurant sector and areas with businesses pressured through that, where people are requesting some form of payment relief. So we're keeping a close eye on that, and I'll be providing a further report to Council next month on the consequences of that.
Thank you for that. Councillor Armstrong.
Director. Just in regard to the unapplied payments, for the benefit of Council, can you please, Director, please advise what constitutes an unapplied payment, why they're unapplied, and what steps are being taken to apply them?
Unapplied payments are due to complications in the fact that Council, for reasons known to Council, set up 3 funds and 3 revenue streams through Council based on the historical areas of Council, and there's a difficult process where we're unravelling the former 3 bank accounts of the former 3 shires, and we've got revenue streaming in through 3 streams from Harden, Burrawa and Young, rather than having a single revenue stream through Hilltops Council. That led to the Technology One system being set up with 3 streams, which is somewhat less efficient, arguably, than having a single revenue stream. We're currently in the process of trying to streamline that so that we can still report as Council requires those 3 revenue streams, but have a single bank account to streamline our effort in matching those receipts to the revenue generated. It's part of the clean-up effort that I'm working with my finance team on, trying to make our financial work more efficient and clean up our account system, but trying to have one organisation working as three has complicated the process, so it's difficult when we're working with three separate bank accounts still, trying to close those down and get our revenue stream sorted into one, but still report as if we were three businesses, is the answer.
Thank you for that.
One question.
Councillor Manchester?
I'm not sure the director can answer it, but of the 1.7 million, that's basically that's 90 days, and you did mention earlier on that the Department of Premier and Cabinet, there was a grant in some of the payments earlier on. But anyhow, the question is, of the 1.7, is there any other grants money involved in that, in late payments? I'm not sure whether you can answer that question, but...
Off the top of my head, Councillor, sorry, no, I won't hazard a guess because I mightn't be correct in giving you a pinpoint accurate answer. I'd take that on notice for the next one.
Thanks.
Thank you. There's no further questions on that item. I'll put the matter. All those in favour? Again? Unanimous. Agreed. Thank you, councillors. Next item is draft Hilltop 2040 local strategic planning statement. The report's there, councillors, and there's a recommendation there. Moved Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor Armstrong. Any questions or comments in regard to that?
Yeah, a few questions, Mr.
Councillor Wallace.
These questions may come about because I failed to attend the workshop about this, but anyway, I'll put them. My reading, I suppose my first question is why it's called Hilltops 2040. Do we need to go out that far? Is that a legislative requirement? I noticed the Community Strategic Plan goes to 2030. I think the whole thing becomes rather confusing and, in fact, rather nebulous because we don't end up planning for that long in any event. But why it's called Hilltops 2040. And the other questions relate to the statement spends most of its time focusing on the three major towns in the council area, but very little focusing on the rural areas which provide the large part of the economic activity, and also the villages which are fundamental to the well-being of the local area. Just wondering if you could comment on those matters, please.
General Director of Sustainable Growth, please.
Thanks for the questions. In regard to your first question, yes, it is a 20-year time frame, and that's why we chose Hilltops 2040. We thought we'd use a term other than LSPS because it can get a bit confusing as well, so we tried to come up with a more basic sort of structure to it as well. So that answers hopefully your first question. Second one's an interesting one, and one that we were debating about and trying to work out the best way to do it. Because it's a land use planning document, if you look at the statutory land use tools available to us, they don't have a lot of flexibility or even a lot of elements that relate to rural and rural villages. For example, your rural areas across the whole of Hilltops, you're lucky to be 2 zones in them. And in rural villages, the same. I'm not saying it's good, and it is something we probably could take further in our strategic planning, whether in this document or somewhere else. So I think there is some work to do in that space, whether we do it now in the draft LSPS through consultation or otherwise, that's something worth considering.
Thank you for that. Any further questions to the Director while he's there? Councillor Walker.
Question, if I may. We seem to mention most facets, and again I apologise, I haven't attended these workshops, but the industrial areas don't seem to mention in as a key element of future growth.
In the document itself, there is a section for each of the towns about their industrial areas and their capacity.
Yeah, I understand that, but it doesn't say it in these strategic plan linkages. It's not shown.
Which one's that one? That's you're talking about the document, the diagram in the document,
Page
or
40.
Page 40? Hang on. So that one there is actually in section 3 about building a strong and robust regional economy. It talks more broadly about our economic strengths and then goes down into the different aspects of that. As you'd imagine, a lot of it relates to our rural economy and agriculture. Yeah, but when it comes into more detail in the document itself, you'll see it starts to talk about industrial land and the importance of that, both in relation to servicing rural lands and for other broader reasons. Also identifies locations where we think growth can actually occur through industrial development, taking into account a lot of our industrial precincts are actually fairly constrained for a range of reasons, so we need to have another way forward for those.
That's exactly my point.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's covered off particularly in the narrative for Hardin Murrumburra, and also referenced in the narratives for Boorowa and Young.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Director. Any other questions of the Director while we're getting there? Councillor Flannery.
Probably a comment, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd like to compliment the Director and his staff, particularly Bryce, on the work they've done on this. Whilst the LEP is certainly not finalised yet, and given the COVID-19 may not be finalised for a while yet, the LSPS turned up midstream, really. It wasn't part of the process when we set out. So it's probably not even clear to the committee where it fitted together, other than being a document that was a bit of a linkage between the community strategic plan and the LEP, which is a pretty hardcore document in that it's the LEP really is shaped around what the majority of the population are doing, which, as we all know, isn't this side of the Great Dividing Range, but isn't that applicable to a rural community. So I think my take on the LSPS would be it's a document that sets out a basic plan of how we see the Shire or the Council and where it all fits together. And probably more than anything, it's highlighted to us the differences between the towns, but how they go together to make up the whole. And I think the studies that were done highlighted that. It's clear that each town has an industrial centre, and each town has a CBD, but they're not all going to grow to be Sydney, Wollongong, Melbourne. We've got to focus on the strengths of each of the former shires and work out where growth is more likely to occur and target those areas. So probably hasn't been an easy one because it just appeared out of nowhere. But I think if people read the document, if they've got comments, it goes out in public display now, and hopefully we'll get feedback. But I certainly commend the Director and his staff on the work they've done.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Flannery. And I'm sure staff appreciate there's been a lot of work going into that document.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to echo Councillor Flannery's sentiments there. I guess the one theme that's come through very strongly for me is that whilst each of the three major centres are centres within their own right, with both commercial, residential and various other activities, they are entirely complementary. And I think that the excellent work that's been done in bringing this document together. This document is not meant to be a hard-edged document. It's meant to be an aspirational sort of a focus to it. It certainly has that. The LEP is far more hard-edged. I think that the acting director and his staff have done a fantastic job, and I'd particularly pay great thanks to the work that Bryce has done.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong, and I'm sure the Director will take that back to his staff, and I'm sure every councillor in this room has the same sentiments, so thank you for that. If there's no further questions, I'll put that item. All those in favour? Again, it's unanimous, so be it. Thank you, councillors. Item 2057, Development Application Stats for February 2020. There's a report there, councillors, and a recommendation. Have a mover? Moved Councillor Armstrong. Seconded Councillor Tuckman. Thank you. Any questions in regard to that item? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Again, so be it. Thank you, councillors. 2058, application to modify development consent number T 98/027 for an extractive industry quarry at Bald Hill, Quarry Hume Highway. Barramingra.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester.
Just one comment. Look, to me, it's it's just an extension of the site minimum. There doesn't seem to be any extra environmental impact or traffic impact on the mine as it stands.
Thank you very much, Councillor Manchester. That was seconded by Councillor Horton. Any questions or comments?
Just one question.
Councillor Tuckerman.
Just in regards to the consent lapsing on the 21st of April last year, does that in any way impede doing a modification and not taking it out to consultation? Just a bit concerning it's taken so long to get back here, that's all.
The Acting Director of Sustainable Growth. Grab the microphone and go again.
Okay. With this one here, it was actually brought to our attention after the date had actually already gone past. So we did look into our options legally, and we were told that we can proceed as long as we do limit it just to relating to the, as you said, no change in the scale or other aspects of the development. Otherwise, that opens the conversation further, because of course the impacts change, and therefore we need to talk more to the community.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? No, Councillor Walker, sorry. Yep.
I have a question, if I may. We can say it's an extension, but over time the conditions against developments like this have changed dramatically, I would suggest. But my main question is, just nearly, I think all mines contribute to the community. Does this mine contribute to the community?
By way of
by grants to the road upgrades or maintenance or whatever it is.
Section 94. Yeah, so there's standard requirements and the consent. I'll go back and have a look and get back to you with more detail if you wish. But usually it's covered in Section 94. I don't think there's a VPA for this one, but I can have a look at that as well if you like. I don't think there is, no.
It's a standard. There's not. There is a Section 94, but there's no VPA.
Thank you for that, councillors, and thank you, Director. So there's no further questions in regard to that matter. I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, it's unanimous. Come to item 2059, Burwa Bulk Water Filling Station. There's a report there, councillors, and a recommendation.
Move the motion, Mr Mayor.
Move Councillor Tuckerman. Seconded. Councillor Manchester.
Question?
Question, Councillor Armstrong.
Mr Mayor, just through to the Director of Infrastructure. I note that in the report there has been a practice of it appears as though filling water at the sale yards truck or the truck wash facility. I'm just wondering how this practice can be allowed given the Department of Health's guidelines in regard to water filling stations, and whether there's an assessment of how much water has gone through that particular tapping. And also, I'm quite curious about the non-written agreement to supply free water. I'm just wondering how if we can get some light shed on that, and perhaps Councillor Tuckerman can provide us some details as to how a non-written agreement could have
Sorry, well before my time.
Whether there's a council resolution that relates to the supply of water at no charge.
Director of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Councillor. In terms of the truck wash, certainly that is an uncontrolled area, and if we or filling the 1 kilolitre tanks on the back of trailers, if we move ahead with this, we can start to control that. It's just been identified as part of this report that it is potential that the nozzles that are used to, the connections that are used in the truck wash can also be used, and the locals advise me that there is people using that for that purpose. If we put in the tap and go facility, we can prevent that and control what is used, what comes out of that, no, there has been no meters on it in the past. As with the truck wash at Harden, there's the truck wash at Harden has a facility for pay-as-you-go. It's a different facility altogether, but this one historically hasn't had one. In terms of the free or the agreement with the landholder there has been an agreement over time. It does go back many years to the point of the construction of the original treatment works down there. If councillors wish to have more detail on there, I think it needs to be a further report to a closed session, because I think there are some commercial details that we need to work through, and that's why I've touched on that item but haven't really gone into any detail there. It is of a concern and we need to address it. Again, that's come up as part of this report.
Just through, Mr. Mayor, the installation of the standpipe, will that remove the free access to water at the truck wash, or will there still be free water at the truck wash facility?
I will set it up so it removes the free access to water for the truck wash, so that it will be a tap and go for the truck wash and a tap and go for the access to the standpipe, and that will be similar then to what we have at Harden.
So just let me get that. There'll be a tap and go on the truck wash facility at Burrawa. There'll be a charge made for the use of the truck wash. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct. The same as we do at Harden.
Where will that equipment be financed from? Given that it doesn't form part of the bulk water filling station and may not be eligible under the under the Drought Communities Extension Program.
The value or the estimate that I have in the report covers both items, and I'm advised that is all part of the Drought Communities Extension Program and is all eligible for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I think the Burrawa community already have a tap and go. They turn the tap on and go.
It does read free. A non-written agreement, it does raise some questions, but anyway, we'll get to the bottom of it.
Presumably the water sales will pay for...
Call the General Manager in for a comment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, certainly the Director of Infrastructure highlighted that point. It needed to be alerted to councillors that there was a very historic agreement. The Director of Infrastructure has availed me on what we believe to be the case, but this is a very old part, which is to do with the whole construction in relation to land. It's not a simple matter, it is a commercial matter. We will have to bring that back to you, and that was our intent. The purpose of this report is to cease, other than that individual/organisation benefiting from free water, we've now instituted so that it is paid.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I think that just about clears that matter up for everyone. Yep. Okay, I'll put that item. All those in favour? Again, it's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. That leads straight into 2060, the Drought Security Extension Program. Councillors, there's a report there about it and a recommendation. Have a mover.
Move the report.
Moved Councillor Tuckerman, seconded Councillor Horton. Question, Councillor Horton, yep.
To the Director of Infrastructure, what actually are the guidelines with regard to where this money for drought security extension can be spent?
There's a document there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. At the last council meeting, those guidelines were attached. They were very loose guidelines, and it was very much up to councils to nominate projects. There's no detailed application form apart from us to nominate a project, nominate a business case for them. But the guidelines were effectively to work on, or to provide projects that would provide economic stimulus to our community, particularly in these drought times.
Using local tradespeople is the reasoning behind a lot of it. Thank you for that. So I've had a mover and a seconder. If there's any other questions on the matter, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again? So be it. Thank you, councillors. Takes me over to 2061, the construction of tennis courts at the Burrawa Showgrounds project update. There's a report there, councillors, and a recommendation.
Move recommendation.
Move Councillor Tuckerman. Seconded Councillor Rolls.
Question?
Question, Councillor Walker.
I noticed on the design that mentions that there's well, first of all, that there's a fairly thick concrete surface to be working on because of the, as it tells us on page 82, the residual silty clays are high plasticity and high reactive, etc., etc. And that's why they use so much concrete. And then it goes on to say, and I'm a little bit confused by this, and it shows on the plans that it's removal of all this unsuitable subgrade. So why this the very heavy design on the surface?
Through you, Mr Mayor. There's two parts to any design. Similar to road designs, we have a base course, or sub-base course, a base course, and then a surface course. The sub-base is what you are building things on. The sub-base in this case is silty clay, which does move around. We have removed a lot of that to put down the base course, which is the good material, but that still moves. And you see it with our roads, that still moves. The base course still moves. It still causes roads to crack. In this case, once we have the good material there, we put down the concrete, and the designers have said to us, because it is a tennis court, you can't afford to have cracking, you can't afford to have residual movement. If I look at risk and what is allowed and what has been found to be a risk in the various courts when people have taken councils on, or sorry, I've got to keep that there, I can't talk with my hands, or pavers out the front, like we have out the front here. Generally by the courts they've accepted 10 to 15 mil as an acceptable risk for a trip slab. For a general concrete slab, they've accepted as a trip slab to be less than 5 millimetres. For something like a tennis court where people are moving quickly and won't be watching where they're putting their feet, the risk of cracking and the risk of a trip slab would be less than 1 to 2 millimetres. That's why we have to put a fairly stiff concrete slab in there, so that when there is differential movement in the subgrade, and there will be, when there is differential movement in the subgrade, the concrete slab will not crack. If the concrete slab cracks, then the surface of the tennis courts, the rubberised material, that will also crack, that will peel again quickly. So that is why there is a very thick concrete slab there at our structural designers' recommendations.
Thank you for that.
Further question?
Councillor Walker.
In that letter you read, did this say something about painting the surface? I didn't quite... I just need a point of clarification.
Yes, Councillor, that's the rubberised surface I was talking about. That is, it's not a concrete court, it is a rubberised surface.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, just a question for the Director.
Councillor Flannery.
I don't understand how the concrete, if we remove the subgrade and then we put another impervious layer, we put another layer down being gravel, and then we put black plastic down, which is an impervious layer. So effectively the slab's floating. How does it, what interface is there with the soil? It should just be floating, isn't it? I mean, that's how all houses are built, so they just float on the ground. If you've got your Rio.
Yes, you are correct, Councillor. Most houses with slab on ground still do have cracks in them. The cracks themselves are covered because of differential settlement, particularly with reactive clays. They still do have cracks in them. They are minor cracks, but generally in houses with concrete slabs, they are covered by carpet, things like that. If you look in many people's garages, yes, there will still be cracks in the garages. They're the cracks we are trying to overcome with a fairly thick slab.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rolls, a question.
I think for Councillor Flannery, if you turn to page 101, there's a little note that says the plastic will prevent loss of water at time of pour and provide a slip plane for this slab to move to resist cracking. Yeah.
That's what he said. Okay,
Just a question.
Councillor Armstrong.
Just, I don't know whether the director's aware or not, but the tennis courts at Young, the new ones that were funded by the Stronger Country Communities or Stronger Communities Fund, do you know how big the slabs are under those?
Through you, Mr Mayor. There are no slabs. They're on a flexible material that has been compacted. So I think it was a sandstone style material, gravel style material, sorry. That was compacted to a fairly solid compaction, and then we put an artificial turf type surface over it.
So there's no concrete under them at all?
No concrete.
They're on granular material?
Correct.
Similar granular material of the material to go under the ones at Burrawa?
Different, councillor. It is a more coarse granular material under Burrawa.
Thank you. So if there's no other questions in regard to that matter...
Mr Speaker, can I just speak to the motion? Just to say
Councillor
that...
Rolls, might turn your microphone off, please. Councillor Tuckerman.
Just to speak to the motion, Mr Mayor, I thought we'd already discussed this when the plans were originally approved, and I find it extraordinary that we continue to put back projects when we have a structural engineer's report, and really we cannot make any other decision for the fact that if something did occur and we hadn't abided by those structural engineer plans, that we would be certainly liable. So I endorse the recommendation and suggest we get on with it.
On that note, I'll put that matter. All those in favour? Again. So be it. Thank you, councillors. 2062 brings us to Wickham Lane ceiling options and costs. Now, councillors, there's a report there and a recommendation. Move, Councillor Horton. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Rolls. Questions or comments in regard to that report? Question, Councillor Armstrong.
Is there any, through Mr Mayor, is there any funding currently available for this under any sort of state government grants? Or, and perhaps if there was, we might be able to avail ourselves of some of that funding for the Temora Road, given its abysmal state as well.
I can speak to part of that question, Councillor Armstrong, in regard to, which is secondary to this item, but we mentioned Millvale Road. I've been made aware early this week, late last week, that our application to the state government for matching funding, to the federal funding, has failed for the second time. So I sought some report on how that might happen, and have been informed that the application was a strong application. I think off the top of my head there might have been 74 projects put before the funding and only 33 were successful. So we're obviously one of the 40 odd that failed, which I find really disappointing, given that the federal government saw the need for this a long time ago, and now it's been rejected twice by the state. So that's the comment I'd make about Millvale Road, and please don't ring me, ring your state member in regard to that, and I might ask the director now to speak about the Wickham Lane part.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Just following up from the Mayor's comments, we certainly will be applying to the next round of fixing local roads, which has just opened for Millvale Road, and try that again. That certainly is an option for Wickham Lane. Fixing local roads certainly needs matching council or matching funds to go with that. Now, whether we have matching funds within our budget, as you can see from my report, we now have $80,000 in the bank, and we'll get another, well, I think it's $50,000. So we won't have a lot of money to match any funds. Certainly I'm happy, if that's council's desire, I'll put in an application there, but we certainly haven't talked at a workshop about what council's priorities are for the various grants, and I would recommend that we do that before we put those applications in. They close in April.
Thank you for that.
Mr Mayor,
Question,
just a
Councillor
question to the
Manchester.
Director. Have we got a traffic count on Wickham Lane?
The very short answer is yes, we do. The longer answer is I do not know the number off the top of my head, but because of the developments that are going on up there in the last 12 months since I've been here, the volume of traffic up and down there has increased by about 15%, and it's I would certainly suggest it's, as I've said in the report, it gets graded every 3 months when I can get water there, and it's one of those that I'd be looking to council that it would be reasonably high on my priorities to do something within the future, subject to budget considerations.
Yeah, just a comment to that. The reason I asked for a traffic count because there has been a lot of development up there and it's still going on. But in actual fact, I think the gravel section of the road is more trafficable than the sealed section. The sealed section is very narrow and would need widening. If you're going to do anything, you'd need to widen the sealed section, where the gravel section is quite a wide and in a better alignment. So. Unless you were doing a whole lot of it, I couldn't see the point of extending the seal unless you were going to renew the seal at this end.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. If there's no other questions or comments, I'd do a recommendation that we receive and note the report. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you, councillors.
Can I add that and wait for a further report on all roads? Do we some sort of program? Is that what I heard out of that?
The asset committee that has been formed have requested an update on where all the road
Thank you.
work is to be done and the programs. That's correct. 2063, the Gaylong Road Long-Term Maintenance Information Report. There's a recommendation and a report there, councillors, in front of you.
Move the recommendation.
Move Councillor Manchester. Seconded. Seconded Councillor Walker.
Mr Mayor,
Councillor Plenary.
questions of the Director. The purpose of this report was to inform Council of the expected annual maintenance costs for Gaylong Road post the upgrade work. I think I did ask, just as a bit of a byline, for what opportunities there might be to move grant funding from some of these roads, such as Gaylong Road to Millvale Road, if we missed the funding from the state government, given the amount of traffic that would carry on Millvale Road compared to Gaylong Road. But I don't think a report ever came back to council. The recommendation is to receive and note the report, but the intent of the question was to form a view regarding negotiations over the VPA. My comment would also be that if we can maintain an upgraded Gaylong Road for $7,000, I would be very, very surprised. But be that as it may, could the Director please advise us of what the process will be now regarding negotiating a VPA, and whether he is happy with the costing noted of $7,000 annual maintenance. What other roads of this nature do we only spend $7,000 on for a similar distance annually?
Director of Infrastructure, please.
I might start backwards in that one through you, Mr Mayor. I might start backwards on that one if I may, Councillor Flannery. If we upgrade the Gaylong Road, certainly we will have very few potholes. The roads will be good. It'll basically be a run along there for the next 7 years to make sure we still have signposts, guideposts, and the culverts are clean. If we do a proper job, we shouldn't need to have any potholes fixed, or just the occasional pothole. So I'm quite confident that for the next 7 years at least is certainly I'm quite comfortable with that number. In terms of the VPA, we now need to start talking with councillors, but certainly councillors need to form a position there on what is acceptable in terms of any additional output from the mine, where we're going with that, and we need to work through that with both my fellow director from Sustainable Growth and the general manager as we talk to the mine people, and we'll come back to council at a later date with options for the VPA. In terms of your first question, to move funds, and I think we've talked about this at council before, to move those funds requires us to hand them back to the state government, and we are then, or the federal in the case of the heavy vehicle grant, we must hand them back, and we are then in their hands as to whether they wish to reallocate them to us. My concern with that is that for council's consideration, I don't have that number in front of me, $300,000. $200,000. We get basically $6.5 million worth of work done on a road that otherwise we would not get rebuilt. If I get this work done, I can get that road built to heavy vehicle or GML status, so that I can have heavier loads along that road. It improves our connectivity for GML routes right across the region, and it provides one more east-west link for our transport network. It will certainly help the mine, but it will certainly help the property owners that are adjacent to that road, so that they won't have to come to us every time and beg for a variation to their mass limits. And certainly the community generally, it'll allow them to get greater transport levels of greater transport weights through our region between the various state highways.
Thank you for that. Any further? Councillor Flannery.
Look, I didn't think it was ever going to be moved. It's just that a report never came back to council in any event. But if we're looking at moving freight, it would be the far more important road, in my opinion. I noticed there's no depreciation in the amount either. Presumably it would form a significant part of the negotiations for VPA funds.
Certainly that'll be one portion of what we do at the negotiation, yes.
Thank you.
Next time I think it would be prudent to include it in the report, please.
I'd say that's been noted, that needs to be taken care of. Any other questions in regard to that item, councillors? If not, I'll put that item. All those in favour? Again, it's unanimous. Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, Councillor Flannery is against receiving it. I'm sorry, Councillor, I turned the other way. Item 2064, Hilltops Works Report. Moved Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor Walker. Any questions or comments, councillors, before I put it? If not, all those in favour? Aye. Again, it's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 2065 is the Action Summary Report. There's a report there and a recommendation, councillors. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Horton, thank you. Seconded Councillor Armstrong, thank you. Questions or anything in regard to that item, councillors?
Mr Mayor, just a question.
Councillor Flannery.
It doesn't explicitly relate to the works report. I'm going to use as an opportunity. I did mean to ask, in the the drought money, Part B was to remove the filtration work, and I assume that's just from the budget, because we agreed at the workshop that it could be held over so we get the whole proposal done. Could the director just confirm that we're not cancelling? And it's just on page 79, if I can indulge myself, it says Part B, cancel RFT 516 of 2020 being the Harden Pool filtration upgrade, which was, we discussed, given the allocation of the funding for we discussed at the workshop, so not all councillors were present, the amenities renovation, that we would hold over the filtration work so that we did it as a combined project and got all the ducks lined up.
Yep.
So it probably should be reading as a holding over for the next budget, but perhaps that'll come up in the QBR.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, point taken. Do you want to speak to that, Director, or...?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, please. Yeah, that is correct, Councillor. It's basically an administrative item. Because we had already started the tender process, we'd already advertised that tender for the filtration replacement. We had to find a mechanism to stop the process and start that later on and get the redesign done with the rest of the building. That is the administrative process to stop the tender, which is get a council resolution.
Thank you. We're back to 2065. I've got a mover and a seconder. Is there any other questions in regard to that matter? No? I'll put that. All those in favour? Again. So be it. Thank you, councillors. Takes me to correspondence for attention, media releases of local government circulars. There's a recommendation there about those, councillors. Mover for that, Councillor
Move the
Armstrong.
recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Seconded, Councillor Wallace. Yes. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Next item is committee reports requiring action, and 2067 is the Hilltops Council, local traffic advisory committee meetings with some matters there that we need to endorse. So the recommendations there, councillors, with the report.
I'm happy to move the recommendation,
Move,
Mr
Councillor.
Chair, but there's a couple of points I'd like to point out.
We'll get a second. I'll just get a second first. Seconded, Tony. Councillor Flannery, thank you. Councillor Manchester.
There's just a couple of points there. The 20-01 resolve, the cycle ride. There's a couple of changes there to their request, but I'm a bit concerned about the cost of this and who's going to bear it. I know it's not part of this traffic report, but I think it should be noted that somewhere down the line, traffic control and the cost involved in that. I raised it at the meeting too, that we need to make a note that I think we could be getting a request for quite substantial funds to run this event. I'm not sure whether they've got the funds to do it. So.
Okay, it's been flagged. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I think we might too.
Councillors.
The other one was 20/03, giveaway sign at Blackett Avenue. One of the bus driving companies raised a few concerns with that giveaway sign, where it was going to be located. And the other one was my concern with the speed limit out on the Temora Road. The extension of the speed limit out the Temora Road. I think that's. I don't believe it's required to go out as far as that it is. I think the best part of the road is actually where they're proposing to extend it out. The worst part is actually inside the 80-kilometre zone.
I think the intent from the Mayor when he brought that matter up wasn't about the actual surface of the road, it was the danger to the people using the road and turning in and off the road. That's what
yeah, but anyhow,
the concept behind it, yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Any other comments in regard to that report and recommendation? If
Just
not,
in regard to the
Councillor Armstrong.
The item 20-05, I share Councillor Manchester's concerns in regards to extending the speed limit as far as the gas pipeline facility, and I believe that it would be better to be terminated or changed. That it's set to just over the top of the hill, the top of Kaboo.
Can I just...
Councillor Walker, I'd like to respond. Councillors on that.
If you read that there, we're waiting for a report to come back, and that report that comes from Transport New South Wales will cover all those points that have been brought up at the moment.
Thank you for that clarification, Councillor. With that being noted, councillors, I'm going to move in a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. 20 2068 committee reports requiring no action. There's recommendation there, councillors. Moved Councillor Horton. Seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favour? Again. Thank you, councillors. That takes me over to item 13, questions with notice. There was nil. Motions and rescission motions nil. Takes me to confidential matters, and I would now ask that someone move us into closed council, please.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Manchester. Seconded Councillor Tuckerman. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. We will now enter into